Buddy, how are you doing today? How are you doing in this continued strange time? It really is quite a just affecting all areas of life, isn't it? It really is quite quite a strange time, is all I can say. So much to kind of adapt to and think about. But I tell you one thing that it's really is doing for me and a few of the people that I'm working with at the moment is really highlighting how important it is to just come back to now, how important it is to think about what we can do right now in this moment. And because there's so much uncertainty, to really focus on the now. And I was talking about that with a client this morning, and I was saying to her that actually, most of the time, all of the time, in fact, um, most of the time, we're living under this illusion that there is certainty, and really there isn't. We just believe there is, and this whole situation is really highlighting that for us and giving us a forced opportunity to be living more in the now. So, yeah, I'm curious about how things are going for all of you and what you're experiencing, what's showing up for you. So this is my weekly Q&A. I've just realized I haven't actually introduced myself. I just went straight into it. I'm Vanya Fatidis, and I'm from Peaceful Eating, and I am here to answer your questions on food and body image. I help people to come to a place of ease and peace in their bodies and with food. So if you have a question you'd like to ask me, then please do drop me a line at peacefuleating.co.uk and find on the navigation bar there is a link to my weekly Q&A, and you can leave an anonymous question there which I'd love to answer. Or you can do it in the comment box, or you can message me. I don't mind which way the question comes. So let's get to this week's questions. I'm going to read out the first one. So here it is. I've been learning and practicing intuitive eating for about a year now, but I feel as though I'm still in the honeymoon phase of the process. In other words, enjoying eating all the foods I haven't eaten while on diets, which was for over 25 years, aged 12 to 40. I understand that this phase takes longer for some people than others, but I think I've realized that I'm getting stuck on one certain idea. I'm now so resistant to restricting in any way that I'm finding it very difficult to say no or to monitor my food intake or habits at all. As you can imagine, I went through every diet out there, including several very harmful orthorexic years, quitting sugar and living healthfully. Good thing she puts it in quotation marks because that's far from living healthfully, really. In my time, I've journaled everything from calories to fullness, and now even the idea of writing down my satiety levels is triggering and feels like a restriction on my eating. I feel like I just want to eat without thought and hope that my body will sort itself out. However, as I keep gaining more and more weight, I'm feeling as though I'm not listening to my body, or maybe my body isn't able to manage without my mind on board too. I feel that I've gained so much weight that I'm struggling to stand, move, climb stairs, and I'm often very uncomfortable in my stomach from overeating. So it feels like maybe my body is trying to tell me to slow down on the eating, but any slowing down or attempting to control or monitor my eating feels like restriction. Wow, so thank you for that question. Yeah, the question was, do I have any tips? And, just to start with, I really want to acknowledge you for all that you have done and are doing to recover from 25 plus years of dieting, controlling, restricting. That is a lot of time. It's more than half your life. So I know from my own experience and working with other people that it takes time and it really does take dedication. And I really do see that in what you've written. So I want to just first of all acknowledge that and really to say to you, I hope that you also take a bit of time to acknowledge yourself for all the work you've put in already and all the letting go you've already done. It's amazing. So, really well done. So, there are a couple of things that I wanted to point out to you. The one is you talk about the honeymoon phase, and I'm curious to know what that means to you. When you think about the honeymoon phase, what does that mean to you? You talk about enjoying all the foods that you've restricted yourself from, and that makes sense. But honeymoons also have some other connotations, and honeymoons come to an end. Typically we think of a honeymoon as a temporary thing because it is, after you've got married or, and you go on a honeymoon, it's a short period of time where there's novelty and excitement and joy. But there's also a great awareness that it's going to come to an end. So it's temporary and you're going to get back to life as normal, so to speak. So while I think part of what you're saying is the honeymoon phase is really about enjoying the foods that you haven't enjoyed for so long or really given yourself that permission to enjoy, I was wondering whether there's any hope or subtly under the radar maybe about this honeymoon phase coming to an end, and maybe you're hoping that you won't enjoy those foods quite so much anymore, maybe. Um, because if you weren't enjoying them so much, then maybe you wouldn't eat them so much, and then maybe you would not put on the weight that you seem to be putting on. And I'm just wondering if that's a hope under there somewhere. So that is something to think about, because if that is on there on some level, then that's some subtle restriction that is going to continue to perpetuate um, the unwillingness, should we say? I don't know if I can really call it an unwillingness, but driving the situation you find yourself in now, where it sounds like what you're doing is not really eating with attunement. You are um, eating still eating in response to the previous restriction. So just give that some thought about, what does honeymoon mean to you? Is there any kind of restriction going on there for you? What are you hoping it means, the end of the honeymoon phase? The other thing that you said is that you find it difficult to say no or to monitor your eating intake. I think you said your intake. Yeah, your food intake. That is diet mentality talking. So any thoughts of monitoring is from a cognitive point of view rather than from your body directing your eating behavior. So, yes, we don't want to be monitoring our food really ever. Um, Mindfulness and monitoring are not the same thing. So, just from what you're saying, it sounds to me like there still is some diet mentality there that you really could do with continued work with to keep on unraveling. And really, it does take time. You can't really put a time limit on how long it takes to be able to unravel the diet mentality. And I think, given that we live in a dieting culture, um, there's always the possibility that it's going to come back to some level at some point again. We need to just continue to be mindful about that, because there's continuous news coming in about health and its relationship to food and its relationship to weight and all of that. So, um, I think it's just a continuous process. So those are two things that I'm seeing are potentially still some diet mentality, which will be making it harder for you to stop at a comfortable point of fullness. So if there's these subtle restriction messages going on, then it's going to be re-triggering this kind of backlash eating. I sometimes think about this as a kind of a PTSD because dieting is a kind of trauma to our systems. So any kind of subtle restrictive messages, I should be monitoring more, I should be stopping at this point, can be interpreted by the body as a kind of re-triggering of the trauma. And this is, I think, what you're speaking to in your message to me. So yeah, I mean, I think the continued unraveling of the dieting mentality is going to be important for you. So what is something that you might be able to practice? As I said, you can't force this. You What we're trying to do with intuitive eating is letting our bodies more of the time be directing our eating and stopping of eating, and not our minds. So you're saying, your mind is not on board. And what you're also saying is you want to eat without thought and just let your body sort itself out. And that's really exactly what we want to be going towards. It's not so much thought that you need. In fact, that's often counterproductive. I think what's needed are two things. The one is more connection with your body, and the other is compassion. Um, and really being super, super kind to yourself, super gentle on yourself, and um, talking to yourself and talking to your body. So, one thought that I had that you could experiment with is, as well as continuing to unravel these subtle diet mentality messages, is to perhaps as you're getting to a point of fullness, you could say to yourself, yeah, this would be a good place to stop. However, there's a part of me that isn't ready to stop, and I'm okay with that. I'm going to continue to eat, but I'm going to be super kind to myself and gentle, and um, and I acknowledge that there's a part of me that isn't yet ready to stop. You might be intellectually understand, you might even be able to notice that your body is full, but there's a part of you, you know, in terms of your emotional readiness to stop eating, that isn't there yet. We can only go as fast as the slowest part of ourselves. That's something I learned from one of my teachers, Raphael Kushner. And I think it's such a wonderful way to think about this. We have different parts of ourselves that are ready at different times, and we can only really go as fast as the slowest part of ourselves. So we need to still have patience for the process, and your kindness towards yourself, your compassion is really, really going to help you to become more ready to stop at the point where you are ready to stop. So I hope that that helps. The other thing that you talked about is that you're not feeling comfortable in your body, that um, you're struggling to stand and move and climb stairs. So um, look, I don't know you, and I forgot to say this at the beginning that most of the time the people who send me questions, all I get is the question. I don't really know very much more. So um, it could be that I don't know how much weight you have gained, and how much of this is an actual objective reality to it. I know subjectively this is what you're experiencing, and I'm not denying that in any way. But sometimes it's how we are feeling emotionally of our bodies that we kind of project onto these things, and sometimes it is an objective reality. And what I would encourage you to do, and I don't know where you are in your process in terms of your relationship with moving your body, but if you're in a place where you feel you can start to move your body in gentle ways, then I'd encourage you to do that, because we can work on our stamina and our strength and our flexibility without um, trying to change our body shape. And I know you're not necessarily saying that, but I do think that there might be something under there about your fear of weight gain and your perhaps your desire to lose weight. So I'd encourage you to keep putting that on the back burner and really try and work on listening to your body. And even when you can't listen to your body because your emotional self has not caught up with that yet, be super kind to yourself, acknowledge it to yourself, and just keep going. So I hope that was helpful. Um, okay, so I'm going to move on to the next question. So this person says, I'm 59 and have worried about my weight since before I can remember, even though most people would likely call me thin. I have no idea what would happen if I ate what I want. My identity has been the fit and healthy one. I had an event happen about 5 years ago that caused me to really get deep into food restriction, to the point where it was dangerous and my entire worth was defined by what the scale said in the morning. Over the last few years, I've been working on this. My scale is gone, and I haven't weighed myself in over a year. My friends, family, all those who worried about me would say I recovered. But I know better. Although my life is full, happy, and I'm finally much more healthy, sleeping better, moods much more controllable, have regained weight, I know that I'm still fairly obsessed with my body and looks. I know I'm a compassionate, kind person, and I logically see that I'm wasting more of my valuable time left on this. I have an unbelievable husband and family, and I feel so silly that I can't get over this. I had decided about 6 months ago that where I've gotten to is good enough. But with the crisis in the world right now, I realize how tenuous life is, how every moment should be used on things that bring joy and peace, not just to myself, but to others. I had convinced myself that I had improved. Obsession with weight and body image were things that were okay to have and were just in my DNA. I still read all the emails you sent to my inbox, and I so resonate with you and your words. You make me feel that perhaps I can get better. Okay, so let me move my notes over. Oops, it's got a bit stuck there. So, thank you for that question. It's really made me think quite a lot over the last week or so since you sent that to me. And, first of all, I want to really acknowledge you as well. Do you see that I really like acknowledgement? Everybody really acknowledge yourselves for, showing up for yourself and doing the work that you've done so far is really incredible. You have come a really long way from where you were, given that you can't even remember a time when you weren't restricting or concerned about your appearance. And you're 59 now. That's a lot of life that you've been involved in this project. So that you have come to a place now of you've regained the weight that you had lost. You have you've improved so much. You've let go of the scale. You're not letting that rule you so much. It's really incredible, and it sounds like you've mostly done that on your own. You said you've read some books, and I had edited your thing a little bit, your submission, just to make it a bit shorter. But you said you've read some books and done some courses. So I don't know if at all you've had any one-to-one with anybody, or if you've done, sort of more passive kind of courses, but still you have done an incredible job. So really want to acknowledge your dedication and your commitment to having got as far as you have. So really well done. So what I'm really hearing from you is that you want something more for yourself. You want full recovery, but you're doubting whether that's possible for you. That you've lived like this so long, you've kind of come to believe that this is just in your DNA. And so, you know, should you just be satisfied with this and kind of accept that you just full recovery is just not possible for some people, and you're one of those people. So, um, what do I want to say about this? I want recovery for you. I want full recovery for you because I know what a massive difference it makes to life. You've got so much good in your life already, and that's amazing. And, you know, there's more on the table for you. I want you to know there is more possibility for you. It sounds like what you're saying is that, um, you've got you basically are still in prison. It's just a nicer prison. Okay, you don't have the scale. You're sleeping better. Your moods are better. But you're still in prison. Okay, maybe that you've got grass and you've got some flowers and maybe a few trees and maybe the birds come, into this prison. But effectively, it's not free. It's not freedom. And I really want that from you, and I do believe that it's possible. Is it possible for everybody? Look, we all have our limitations, and how are we going to know what our limitations are if we don't really go for what we want and really go for what we want? I don't believe that I have seen that the amount of time of disordered eating is not necessarily a predictor of your capacity to recover or of the time that it's going to take to fully recover. Okay, I see all sorts of things. There's just so many variables. So, um, what I want to say is that it's worth putting in the work, because unless you do put in the work, you'll never find out whether full recovery is possible for you. And you're tasting something more for yourself given this whole pandemic and your realization that actually life is precious, and there is so much good, and why not have more good in your life if you can? So I had a few thoughts about that you can be thinking about. The one is to really consider what is the function of this restriction in your life. If it wasn't having, oh, I'm getting a message saying we're having trouble playing this video. So I don't know if you can still see me, hear me, if it's still recording. Uh, don't know if I should continue. Can anybody give me a sign of life? Um, this camera, let me try that again. It's telling me it's still live. Um, hmm. Okay, I'm going to continue in case it's still playing, and if it's not, then I will do another quick one to complete with this. So your restriction is it's playing a role in your life. It is serving you in some way. If it wasn't serving you, you wouldn't be doing it. And I think you need to try to understand how it's functioning in a kind of positive way for you, if that makes sense. Obviously, it's having a lot of negative ramifications. It's really keeping you trapped. Um, but it is also serving something positive. It's trying to help you in some way. So you need to work out what the function is. The other thing I want to say is it sounds to me from, the exchanges that we've had over time, that your self-worth is wrapped up both in your body being a certain way, but also in your willingness to invest in yourself. It sounds like you're not just restricting yourself in this one area of food, The restriction is playing up in other areas of your life. So I would explore that if I were you. And the last thing I want to say is that you've done a lot on your own, and there's only so much that one can do on one's own. Look, some people can get full recovery on their own. Great. Maybe you can with more work and more reading and whatever, but this is not just an intellectual exercise. This is about emotionally processing the work. It's not just about an understanding and a cognitive thing, it's about an emotional processing. And you can't see what you can't see. And so working with somebody can help you to see what you're not being able to see, to shine the light on the areas that you're not able to see, your blind spots, right? We all have our blind spots. So I really want to encourage you to take the opportunity to work with somebody one to one and see where you can go in terms of really freeing yourself from this so that you can live outside the prison. And I want that for everybody. All right. Well, it's still showing me that it's having trouble. So I don't know what is going on. And I'm going to stop this video now and try and find out what's happened to see whether I need to create a new video with this last bit of this last question. So thank you for being here. Thank you for watching, if you are watching. And please, if you have a question for me, pop it in the comments. You're very welcome to download my ebook called A Guide to Peaceful Eating. I'd love you to read it and let me know what you think. That's what I really want to know. How does this land with you? All right, take care and see you next week. Bye for now.